Parent of a child with learning differences, you may have heard of executive function, but what is it exactly? And how does it overlap with learning differences? Executive function is sometimes called the brain's management system because it's responsible for performing a set of different but related mental skills. The brain processes that enable executive function skills are split into three categories: working memory, which allows us to recall and make use of information on the spot; cognitive flexibility, which enables us to adapt and shift between tasks; and self control, which helps us to prioritize and curb impulses. Struggling with executive function skills is not a learning disability on its own, but it often comes with other learning challenges, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD is highly related to executive function, and people with ADHD will likely have trouble with all or many of the skills governed by executive function. Other neurodiversities, such as autism and dyslexia, may also overlap with executive function challenges. Potential signs of executive function problems may include struggling to start, finish, or switch tasks, not remembering something a teacher or parent just said, poor time management, frequently losing belongings, difficulty following or remembering directions, displaying excessive emotional responses. To help us better understand this very personal experience, we spoke with Jaya Bonner, who has struggled with executive function since middle school. Today, Jaya is a learning specialist at the University of South Carolina and a member of the National Center for Learning Disabilities Young Adult Leadership Council. Do you remember when you first heard about executive function, and how was it explained to you?
So executive function wasn't really explained to me. It was kind of told to me. Um, when I was in sixth grade, I was going to a private school at the time, and the private school just didn't have the necessities that I needed, as my parents felt like I needed more. So I actually transferred to a different school. And then my teacher finally found out about my ADHD. My papers kind of processed there at the school, and it was just a total different atmosphere. I didn't feel like I was any different before, but right then and there, that was just it. Like I knew.
We also spoke with Amanda Morin, an educator who specializes in developmental delays and learning differences. Amanda is the mother of three children, including two sons with autism. Do executive functioning challenges go hand in hand with those learning differences for your son?
They do, yeah, and especially with ADHD. ADHD in particular, it's one of the key signs of ADHD is difficulty with executive functioning. My son will be going to put on his pajamas and he'll get sort of distracted by a book, or he'll get distracted by something else. And 10 minutes later, he'll be like, "You're still not in your pajamas." So the whole day is kind of a reminder system. We're consistently saying, "Did you remember?" And it's not deliberate on his part. It's his brain is getting distracted, or he doesn't think about what needs to come next. Both of my sons have difficulty figuring out how long a task is going to take them. And sometimes they say things that are completely inappropriate because it comes out of their mouth before they think about it. We've all had that experience, right? We all do that once in a while. They do it more often than other people. And it's because they just don't have that brakes aren't being put on before it comes out of their mouth sometimes. And also this the ability to self-regulate, like emotional regulation, the ability to be able to say, "I need to calm down."
The first issue that I had was processing my emotions. That is the first one I dealt with, how to process my emotions and how to say what I'm feeling. And I didn't know that that was a factor of my ADHD until my parents finally took me to therapy. And she was like, people with ADHD don't know how to process their emotions. It's harder for them to know what they're feeling, um, explain that, and explain it in a way that people will understand. And that was the first time I ever dealt with anything, including executive function, which was processing my emotions. Everything, I even do this with my students, and I teach people this all the time. What works for one student is not going to work for another student. So what works for one child is not going to work for every child. I never in a million years thought I would make it to this place where I would be. I actually didn't even tell you about this, about the sixth grade teacher. She told me that I would never make it out of high school. I have 2 degrees and 1 high school diploma to prove her wrong.
I really want parents to know that difficulty with executive functioning is not difficulty with trying, right? It's not that kids aren't trying hard enough. It's that they are trying probably even harder than we think they are. And they just need some support to learn how to develop those skills, and that they will develop eventually. It's just we have to be able to be patient and teach those skills over time. We can't assume that they're going to just develop. We have to start teaching them. And sometimes that means learning them ourselves as parents too.